Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be diving into Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead.
Oh, yeah, this is a classic.
It is, and it's one that I think really kind of gets at some core ideas about, individual liberty versus kind of the pressures of society.
For sure, and how those two things interact, especially for creative people, I think.
Exactly, and I mean, the book centers around architects, right?
Yeah, Howard Roark, our main character.
So right from the get-go, we get this very strong personality
Very strong.
who refuses to compromise his vision.
Yeah, he's uncompromising, and that's like, it's kind of a theme throughout the whole book.
And I guess you could say the theme of our deep dive, too, in a way, because we're going to be looking at this from a libertarian, anti-collectivist lens.
That's right, because that's really at the heart of Rand's philosophy, isn't it?
It is. So when we see Rourke refusing to, design these buildings that he finds distasteful.
Yeah, he'd rather work in a quarry.
Literally, right? He ends up working in a quarry rather than compromise his artistic integrity.
And I think that's what's so interesting about the book is that it's not just about, aesthetics or architecture.
It's deeper.
It's about these core principles, right? The individual versus the collective.
And what happens when those two things come into conflict?
Exactly. And how do you navigate that as an individual, especially when you have a strong vision like Rourke does?
Right. And that's where we see this contrast with Peter Keating, right? His classmate.
Oh, yeah, the foil to Rourke.
Keating is all about, what's popular. He wants the awards.
He wants the recognition, the fame.
Yeah, he wants to be accepted.
Yeah, he's constantly looking over his shoulder. Is he doing the right thing? Is he impressing the right people?
And you almost feel sorry for him in a way.
You do. There's a part of you that's like, oh, man, you're so talented, but you're wasting it,
Because you can see that he has the potential.
He does. He has the potential to be great.
But he's squandering it by trying to please everyone.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes him such a tragic figure.
There's that really sad scene, too, where he throws Lucius Heyer under the bus.
Oh, yeah, his former mentor, basically.
I mean, just to save his own skin.
To appease the people in power.
It's heartbreaking, and it really shows the kind of moral compromises that people can make.
When they prioritize fitting in over staying true to themselves.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that Rand is really warning us about, right?
The dangers of conformity.
Mm-hmm. The idea that if you're always trying to fit in, you're never going to achieve your full potential.
And you might even end up betraying yourself in the process.
Right. And then there's this whole other layer to the story with Ellsworth Toohey.
Oh, gosh, Toohey. He's a piece of work.
He's so manipulative.
And he's like this wolf in sheep's clothing,
He presents himself as this champion of the common man.
Right. He's all about the collective, the greater good.
But underneath it all, he's just power hungry.
He wants to control everyone.
And he does it in such subtle ways.
Through guilt, through this idea that you're not a good person unless you're sacrificing yourself for the group.
And he's constantly pushing for mediocrity.
Because mediocre people are easier to control.
That's a chilling thought, isn't it?
It is, and it makes you really think about the dynamics of power. How easily people can be manipulated.
Especially when they're made to feel guilty or inadequate.
Exactly, and that's where I think Rand's perspective becomes really relevant even today.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, how many times do we see this kind of group thing happening?
All the time on social media, in politics, even in our personal lives.
Where people are afraid to express their true opinions.
Or they go along with things they don't actually believe in just because they don't want to rock the boat.
And so we're left with this question, right?
How do we navigate this world where there's so much pressure to conform?
How do we stay true to ourselves?
How do we avoid becoming like Peter Keating?
Or worse, being manipulated by someone like Toohey?
It's a challenge, and I think that's why it's so important to explore these ideas.
To really think critically about the messages we're being bombarded with.
And to have the courage to stand up for what we believe in, even when it's unpopular.
Even when it means going against the grain.
Exactly. And that's what we'll be diving into more deeply as we continue our exploration of the Fountainhead.
And so stay tuned because we're just getting started.
It's interesting to see how Rourke actually does find a way to make his vision work.
Yeah, like he doesn't just completely isolate himself, does he?
No, he doesn't. And I think that's a really important point because sometimes people misinterpret the message of the book as being this, lone wolf kind of thing.
Right, like the rugged individual who just shuns society completely.
Exactly. But Rourke doesn't do that. He does find people who understand him.
Like Austin Heller, right?
Yeah. Heller is this great example of someone who appreciates Rourke's talent and gives him the space to create.
And he doesn't try to, force Rourke to compromise or change his style.
No, he trusts Rourke's vision, which is really key, I think.
And that's where you see the potential for collaboration, even within this framework of individualism.
Absolutely. It's about finding the right people to work with, people who share your values and who respect your individuality.
And that's not always easy, is it?
No, it's definitely not. And we see that with Rourke's struggles as well. He faces a lot of setbacks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he gets fired. He loses clients.
The Cortlandt Homes project is a big turning point, I think.
That's the one where he designs this amazing affordable housing complex.
Right. And it's innovative. It's different. It could really benefit a lot of people.
But it gets sabotaged, doesn't it?
It does. And that's where we see Toohey's influence really come into play.
He manipulates public opinion, turns people against Rourke.
Yeah, he plays on their fears, their prejudices, their desire for conformity.
And it's all because, too, he can't stand the fact that Rourke is so independent, so uncompromising.
He sees Rourke as a threat to his own power.
And ultimately, the project gets destroyed. It's so sad.
It's a real tragedy, and I think it speaks to the danger of letting fear and groupthink dictate our decisions.
Because that's what happened, right? People were afraid of Rourke's vision. They didn't understand it, so they rejected it.
And they ended up destroying something that could have been truly great.
And it's that destruction that leads Rourke to take such a drastic step, right?
Yeah, the dynamiting of the Cortlandt Homes project.
That's a pretty controversial scene.
It is, but I think it's important to understand the context.
He's not just trying to be destructive. He's making a statement.
He's reclaiming his work. He's saying, if you're going to corrupt my vision, then I'd rather it not exist at all.
It's like he's saying, I have the right to control my own creation.
Exactly. And I think that ties into this whole idea of individual rights and the importance of protecting them.
Because if someone can just come in and change your work without your consent, what does that say about your freedom as an artist?
It really undermines the whole concept of creative expression.
And that leads us to the trial, doesn't it?
The trial is such a pivotal moment in the book.
Where Rourke gets to stand up and defend his actions, his philosophy.
And he delivers this incredible speech about the importance of individual creativity, the right of the creator to their own work.
It's powerful stuff.
It is, and it really gets to the heart of Rand's philosophy.
But it's not just Rourke who makes a stand during the trial. Dominique does too.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge moment for her.
She risks everything by publicly revealing her relationship with Rourke.
Knowing that it could hurt his case.
But she does it anyway, because she believes in him and what he stands for.
It's a really brave act, and it shows how much she's grown as a character.
She's finally overcome her fear of judgment, her need to conform.
And in doing so, she finds her own voice, her own strength.
And ultimately, her testimony helps Rourke win his case.
Which I think speaks to the power of standing up for what you believe in, even when it's difficult.
Even when it means going against the grain.
Because sometimes that's the only way to make a real difference in the world. So Rourke wins his case right, and then he finally gets a chance to build the Winan building.
Which is like his ultimate masterpiece.
It is this towering symbol of everything he believes in.
This uncompromising vision, this dedication to individual creativity.
And it's interesting because the building itself is so unique, so different from anything else around it.
It almost seems to defy gravity.
It does. It's like this bold statement against the kind of the drab conformity of the city.
And you can really see how it embodies Rourke's spirit. This refusal to blend in, this desire to stand out and make a mark.
Exactly. It's like he's saying, I'm not going to play by your rules. I'm going to create something new, something beautiful, something that reflects my own vision.
And isn't there this really powerful scene where Dominique sees the completed building for the first time?
Oh, yeah. She goes up to the top and just gazes out at the city.
And you can just feel the sense of awe and inspiration.
Like she's finally seeing the world through Rourke's eyes.
And she realizes that this is what true freedom looks like. This is what it means to live a life on your own terms.
And it's not just about her or Rourke. It's about this potential that exists within all of us.
This capacity to create, to innovate, to break free from the constraints of society.
To be the fountainhead of our own lives.
That's a great way to put it, and I think that's really the core message of the book, isn't it?
It is. It's this call to embrace our individuality, to resist the pressure to conform, and to strive for something greater than ourselves.
To create something that will outlast us, something that will inspire future generations.
And I think that's why the Fountainhead continues to resonate with people, even today.
Because it speaks to this deep human need for self-expression, for meaning, for something that transcends the ordinary.
It's a reminder that we're not just cogs in a machine. We're individuals with our own unique talents and dreams.
And we have the power to shape our own destinies.
To build our own wine and buildings, so to speak.
I love that. And I think that's a great note to end on.
It is. It's a call to action, a
Yeah.
challenge to go out there and make our mark on the world.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us on this deep dive into the Fountainhead.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
And we hope you'll join us again next time for another deep dive into a classic work of literature.
Until then, keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep creating.
See you on the next deep dive.